Hello, wrestling fans! Last night, Impact Wrestling presented Slammiversary 2022 as they celebrated 20 years of existence to this very day, back when it was known as Total Nonstop Action to begin with. The event began with pre-show matches. The first one, we saw the most professional wrestler, Brian Myers, challenge Rich Swann for the Digital Media Championship. Swann hit a satellite Hurricane Rana. Myers with a back suplex on the floor and dropping Swann on the apron. Sick bump. Back in the ring, Swann hit a flying clothesline. Myers retaliated with a spear. Also hit a Pele kick. Myers hit that spike DDT Gangrel's known for. Swann hit a springboard cutter followed by a 450 splash and pins Myers to retain the Digital Media Championship. Next up, we have a reverse battle royal. Now, unless I'm mistaken, this was something that Vince Russo had his fingerprints all over with long ago. I don't know how often the company's done it over the years, but it's an original concept, seemingly. But in the reverse battle royal, among the participants, and the rules, by the way, where the wrestlers start out on the floor, and they have to, the first 8 men, they have to get into the ring, over the top rope, into the ring. Once 8 men were in there, everybody else was eliminated from the match, and then the 8 men in the ring have a standard battle royal matchup. Among participants were Aiden Prince, representing Decay, Crazy Steve, 72-year-old Mike Jackson. I think he's maybe worked for the old Jim Crockett Promotions back in the 80s. I could be wrong. Nate Webb, Raj Singh, Shogun, Zicky Dice, Chase Stevens, who was one half of the Naturals with Andy Douglas, I believe. Steve Macklin, the lucky bastard who's engaged to the virtuoso, Deanna Perrazzo. Chris Bay of the Bullet Club. Johnny Swinger. Fupinder Gujar, I apologize if I pronounced his name. Shera, not Shira, Shera. Here's a blast from the past. The Messiah of the Spinebuster, David Young, who I feel had potential back in the early years of TNA, and a part of Sports Entertainment Extreme, another Russo idea, bro. And a real blast from the past, the Disciples of the New Church, which was one of the first factions in the early years of TNA. Out comes Father James Mitchell with former Disciples of the New Church member Slash, who of course was Wolfie D, one half of PG-13 years earlier with Jamie Dundee in the USWA. Let's see. Well, okay, let's see. Well, the participants that did not end up in the final 8 were Aiden Prince, Crazy Steve, Mike Jackson, Nate Webb, Raj Singh, Shogun, Slash, Zicky Dice, and Chase Stevens. But before the early going, Mike Jackson was, I guess, grabbing hold of Shira's arm, and I guess was doing his best Hakushi impersonation, as he was tight roping the guardrail, hanging on to Shira's arm before I think he came down with I don't know, it was a right hand or something. In the ring, actually, when the final 8 got in the ring, at one point, Chris Bay and Macklin were battling had gone over the top rope to the apron, and they're battling it out. Eventually, Bay jumps off the second ropes backwards and hits a ace crusher on Macklin on the apron, and then both men hit the floor. And then it was down to the final 2 between Johnny Swinger and TNA cult favorite Shark Boy. And Shark Boy pinned Swinger with a Stone Cold Stunner to win the reverse battle royal. So nice reminiscing flashback moment there. But then it was on to the main show, as we have to kick off the show, we have an Ultimate X match for the X Division Championship. Now, what is it me or every time Impact does it, every time there's a pay-per-view in recent memory, the Ultimate X match seems to be put on first, I guess because after the match they can take the cables, the X cables down. Okay, but in this matchup we saw going into this match, the champion Ace Austin defending against Alex Zane, Kenny King of Honor No More, Trey Miguel, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Andrew Everett. Originally, Jack Evans was going to be in this match, but they said he was injured. I'm not sure if he was legitimately. But it was a six-way Ultimate X match for the X Division Championship. Okay, among the highlights, Everett German suplexes Trey off the apron, and I think Trey landed on some of the guys on the floor. Alex Zane and Kenny King hit a blockbuster Doomsday powerbomb on Trey. There was a Tower of Doom spot in the corner, but Trey Miguel held on to the corner, and he ended up hitting a top rope Canadian Destroyer on Alex Zane. Well, can't really call it Canadian because Petey Williams doesn't wrestle anymore. I'm sorry to say, folks, but every time you see it, I mean, when Petey Williams was doing it, it was hot years ago, but now when anybody does it, it's like, meh, I'm sorry. The end came when Speedball Mike Bailey and Ace Austin, they both were both at the center of the X, and they're they're hanging on with their hands, and they use their legs to tie themselves around the X cable, Ultimate X cables. Eventually, Andrew Everett tries from the very top of the X cables, but Bailey head scissored Everett off the top of that X. I forgot what happened to Ace Austin, but Speedball Mike Bailey unhooked the belt to win the Ultimate X match and become the new X Division champion, and it was a nice touching moment for him celebrating with the holding up the X Division title on top of the Ultimate X cables. Alright. Next up, we have a match for the Knockouts Tag Team Championship as we see the Influence, Tennille Dashwood and Madison Rayne defending against Taya Valkyrie and representing Decay, Rosemary. Taya hit a Blue Thunder Bomb on Rayne. Rosemary hit a Exploder suplex on Rayne. Rosemary and Taya hit stereo spears on both members of the Influence. The Influence hit the Collab, some kind of a double team move. I think it might have been a double on Rosemary. But the end came when Rosemary hit, I forgot if it was Rayne or Dashwood with a front chancery powerbomb spinebuster type move, and to my surprise, Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie won the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. I don't know, for some reason, I don't know if these ladies just didn't click in there or what the problem was. I wish they would Impact would just get some more women, even if it's just for, to make them women's tag teams and stuff, especially now the Inspiration have since left Impact and seemingly left wrestling altogether. Okay, next up was a Monsters Ball pitting Moose against Death Machine Sammy Callan. Now this stemmed back to last summer, I believe, when I don't know if it was a storyline, but Sammy Callan had gotten injured and he had to get surgery and he was out for some time. But then at Under Siege in May, Moose interrupted the show, only for him to be interrupted by the returning Sammy Callan. And the weeks leading up to Slammiversary, Callan and Moose were at each other's throats. Now, the Monsters Ball is another original TNA/Impact concept, where the competitors are supposedly locked in rooms for 24 hours with no shelter, no food, no water. and they show them in the back being let out of their rooms. Funny thing was, Moose was coming to the ring first, and while he's standing at the top of the ramp, Callan attacks him from behind during his entrance. I forgot how, but Callan bled. Moose hit a Uranagi while out on the floor. Uranagi dropping Callan on the apron. Then he hit another one through a table. Moose attempted a spear, but he ended up going headfirst into I believe it was a plastic garbage can. I mean, when I saw that happen, I couldn't help but laugh. I said, "Oh, great! Moose just got canned." Eventually, Callan went underneath the ring. He brought out a door with barbed wire on it and set that up in the corner. Moose was pushed off the top rope, and he went crashing through the timekeeper's table. Callan pulled out a bag of thumbtacks, which he poured into the ring. Sammy went for a tornado DDT off the second rope, but Moose countered it with a sky high on Callan, he landing on the tacks, and then Moose grabs Callan and drags him while still on the tacks. Moose hit. Later on, Sammy recovered by giving Moose a Death Valley driver onto the barbed wire door in the corner. One point, Callan hands Moose the lid of a trash can lid, and they're both dueling with it, hitting each other with the head, like a not like when kind of like for some reason I couldn't think of Masato Tanaka and the late Mike Awesome when they had their chair joust. Every time Awesome and Tanaka would do that spot, I would say, "Oh, time to joust." Let me see. Eventually, Callan hits what they called the Cactus Driver 97 onto the tacks. The ending came when Callan powerbombed Moose off the top rope onto a trash can that was standing in the ring. Then he took another Cactus Driver 97. Callan went for the pin. Moose kicked out at 1. And then Sammy hit, I believe it was a barbed wire baseball bat, and then he hit a third Cactus Driver and pins Moose to win Monsters Ball. This was a hectic matchup, and I don't know where Moose is going to go from here. I mean, he lost the title to Josh Alexander back at Rebellion in April, and now this feud with Callan seems to be over. Wasn't much of a feud, unless that somehow continues. Okay, next up we have a match for the Tag Team Championship, and we see Jay and Mark Briscoe defend the Tag Team title against the Big LG, Doc Gallows, and Machine Gun Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers. The early going, Mark Cactus clotheslines Cactus elbows off the apron, Gallows off the apron to the floor. Gallows boots Jay in the face. Carl throws Jay a chair in the corner. No, he throws Jay. No, they set up a chair in the corner that was positioned between the second and top ropes, and Carl threw Jay at the chair set up in the corner. Carl took a belly-to-belly suplex from Mark Briscoe. Carl hit a kick on somebody. I forgot who. One of the Briscoes took a neckbreaker, powerbomb neckbreaker combination. Gallo kicks Jay to prevent Jay from hitting his Jay driller on Carl. They hit the mat. Eventually, the end came when the Good Brothers hit the Magic Killer on Jay Briscoe, got the pinfall to win the Tag Team Championship for the third time, and I don't know if this is maybe a first. The Good Brothers have won the Tag Team Championship at Slammiversary for the second year in a row. And then, all of a sudden, some familiar music comes on, and out comes Wildcat Chris Harris and the Cowboy, James Storm, America's Most Wanted, one of the tag teams that basically, one of the hottest tag teams from the early years of TNA, and basically helped put the company on the map. And Storm had like a 6-pack of beer with him, and he talked about, when this company started, nobody gave it 4 weeks. Some said it wouldn't last months, and here we are 20 years later. And he says to both teams, he says, you guys are just like us, known for 2 things: fighting and drinking. And so he takes the beers out of the 6-pack, and he hands a bottle of water to Harris, and Storm says, everybody needs a designated driver. And they all took their drinks and cheered, had a toast and cheers to each other. And Storm saw the microphone. To all the doubters and haters, sorry about your damn luck. Well, it was good to hear their entrance music again, but I don't know if they'll come back. I mean, I don't know if Storm is still under contract or not, or if Harris even wrestles anymore, but because honestly, with the Good Brothers as tag champions, I don't know if the Briscoes are still going to be around, or what they're going to do with the tag title situation in Impact. Okay. Let's see. Okay, up next. Actually, they announced the commentators. Matthew, can't pronounce his last name. He was Aiden English in WWE, and Tom, forgot his real last name. He was Tom Phillips when he used to commentate for Monday Night Raw. They introduced Christy Hemme in the ring, who ring announced the next matchup, and she introduced the Vice President of Impact Wrestling, Scott D'Amore, who came out to the old Team Canada theme, wore his hockey jersey, waved the Canadian flag on the hockey stick, and he joined both Matthew and Tom at their table to commentate this next match, which was the 10-man tag team match, pitting, representing Honor No More, Eddie Edwards, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, the lucky bastard, Vincent, and PCO, accompanied the ring by the gorgeous Maria Kanellis, as they took on the Impact Originals, Frankie Kazarian, the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, Nick Aldis. For those who don't know, he wrestled as Magnus in Impact years previously, and he's another lucky bastard for being married to Mickie James. And along the way, when Kazarian's coming to the ring for his match, his wife, former Knockout Tracy Brooks, and their son Rebel was in the crowd. Right next to them was legendary referee Earl Hebner, who recently lost his twin brother Dave. And the funny thing was, this match was refereed by Earl's son Brian Hebner. But out comes Dixie Carter, that dum-dum, who don't know anything about wrestling, that money mark. She comes out and she talks about that they made it to 20 years, blah, 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 blah. And she introduces the mystery partner on the Impact Originals. It is none other than Eddie Edwards' former Wolf partner, Davey Richards. And there were moments, I think, in the early going of this 10-man tag where Edwards was, trying to, every time Richards got tagged, Edwards was trying to avoid butting heads with him and all types of stuff. But this 10-man tag, it was like, I wouldn't say like full of like a spot fest or full of sequences of moves. I mean, it's like, I guess everybody got to get the opportunity to get in there and show their stuff or show their shit. But let's see. Eventually, I think early going, Matt Taven was quadruple teamed by, I think it was Kazarian, the Machine Guns, and I forgot, it was either Aldis or Richards. Alex Shelley was in peril, took a lot of punishment from Honor No More. Kazarian got tagged in. Davey eventually gets a hold of Eddie Edwards, and he grabs Edwards' leg on the apron, and he gives him the Dragon Screw Leg Whip on the rope. I actually love that move, the Dragon Screw Leg Whip, which I first saw Tatsumi Fujinami, great wrestler, do that move. I don't know if Fujinami invented it. Let's see. Kazarian nails PCO with a Michinoku Driver. Love that move. Davey hit a stomp from the top rope on PCO. I forgot what happened. Oh, well, Maria came up to the apron. Tracy Brooks came out from behind the rail and pulled her down and hits Maria with a lariato. Man. I don't know what happened to referee Brian Hebner, if he was pulled out of the ring by somebody, but then Earl Hebner came over the rail. He's checking on Brian. Let's see. Kazarian hits the flux capacitator or incapacitator on PCO, which is like the solo Spanish fly. Eventually, another Honor No More's fellow comrade, Kenny King, he comes out and interferes, but then out comes D'Lo Brown, who showed up on a recent episode of Impact leading up to Slammiversary, where he had cleared the Ring of Honor No More on a recent Thursday night. But D'Lo eventually came along. I forgot what happened. I forgot what he did to Kenny King, but he hits the lowdown splash off the top rope on the Kenny. Chris Sabin gives PCO the cradle shock. Earl Hebner comes up to the apron and somebody takes his shirt off. He's wearing his stripes. He enters the ring, makes the 3 count, enabling the Impact Originals to win a great 10-man tag team matchup. And Earl Hebner, Brian, his son Brian, Tracy Brooks, they're all in the ring celebrating with Sabin, Shelley, Kazarian, Aldis, and Richards. And in case you haven't figured this out, so far this was a great pay-per-view. Okay, up next, history in the making. The first ever Queen of the Mountain match for the Knockouts Championship. Now, for the first few Slammiversaries, when the pay-per-view became Slammiversary in 2005, well, by that point they had their 3-hour pay-per-views running. The Wednesday night era was done. They would do King of the Mountain would be the main event of Slammiversary, where it would be 5 men vying for the World's Heavyweight title. In this case, it's the ladies' turn, finally. I don't know what's going to be next for the ladies to do, because they already had a women's Knockouts Ultimate X. They've had, I don't know if they've done a Monsters Ball match yet, or, I'll get to more if I get done with this through these matches. But it was, actually, they had former Knockouts champion Mickie James as special guest enforcer, and she's, got quite the outfit on. But we had Tasha Steelz accompanied the ring by Savannah Evans. Tasha Steelz defending against Chelsea Green, Jordynne Grace, Tasha Steelz accompanied by Savannah Evans. Tasha Steelz defending against Jordynne Grace, the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo, Chelsea Green, and Mia Yim. All right. This is innovative, but it's also complicated, this match, even when it was King of the Mountain, where the idea is, in order to wrestle must score a pinfall or a submission to qualify to hang the championship, to climb the ladder and hang the championship belt above the ring. The person who submits or gets pinned has to spend 2 minutes in a penalty box. Pfft. Will the NHL ever sue? Okay, they were early in the match. The ladies were doing dives to the floor. Chelsea ended up pinning Tasha, and Tasha had to spend 2 minutes in the penalty box. And I think, was it at that point, as Mickie James was out there to make sure the ladies get in the penalty box or let them come out when their time was up. I think one point both Tasha and Savannah Evans were when Tasha had to go into penalty, Savannah Evans was put in there too. Eventually, Tasha Steelz gives Mia Yim the Stratusfaction, which is that bulldog Trish Stratus is known for, and Mickie James has done it too. Eventually, Mickie ejected Savannah Evans from ringside. Mia Yim pinned Chelsea Green with a belly back suplex. Chelsea had to go in the penalty box. Eventually, she comes out. As she's being put in, Chelsea kicks the penalty box cage door, hits right in Mickey's face. Later in the match, Tasha hit a an ace crusher on Mia Yim, who was on the ladder at the time. I can't remember everything I wrote down here. I think Tasha was on the ladder. Mia did a drop kick off the penalty box onto somebody. I can't remember who. I think this was a great spot. Mia jumps off the penalty box, drop kicks Chelsea Green, who lands on the ladder that was, I think, set up on the ropes. Yim jumped off the ladder onto Grace and Actually, no. Jumps off the ladder on Grace and Deanna on the floor. Mia pinned Grace with a pile driver, and I don't know if something went wrong there because Mickie James, she had to help Grace get in the penalty box. Mickie eventually attacks Chelsea Green. Deanna powerbombs Mia on a ladder. Mia pushes the ladder, and with Chelsea and Deanna on it, and they go flying off the ladder, out of the ring, crashing through tables. Mia pinned Tasha. Wait. No, Mia was pinned by... I can't remember how Mia did get pinned. But eventually, Jordynne Grace hits the muscle buster on Tasha Steelz, and Grace climbs the ladder and hangs the Knockouts belt above the ring. And as a result, Jordynne Grace, the new Knockouts champion. These 5 ladies did very good. Hopefully, in the future, they will do another Queen of the Mountain match. Maybe next year's Slammiversary. Wow. Okay, now it was main event time. As we saw, the leader of Violent by Design, Eric Young, defend with Joe Doring and Diener at ringside, challenging Josh Alexander for the Impact World Championship. Now, I'm a big fan of Josh Alexander's work, but Eric Young is original. But the thing, this guy's a fucking butt wiper, ass kissing cocksucker. But then again, look who runs Impact now. The man who broke Eric Young to business, Scott D'Amore. And all apologies, man. I don't think Eric Young has ever been that great of a wrestler. You know, especially all the way back to his days in Team Canada. I'll get back to Team Canada later. But match is on. In the early dawn, both men missed moonsaults off the top rope. They both get into a slugfest. At one point, Josh does the Samoa Joe face wash on Young on the floor. Young hits a Death Valley driver, followed by a top rope elbow drop. Then Young goes outside and starts unhooking the ring apron. And I think Diener and Joe Doring are out there helping him. Young says hello to Jeff Jarrett by hitting Josh with the stroke. Josh channels his inner Kurt Angle. He puts an ankle lock on Young. Young rips a page out of the Monster Abysses a book with the Black Hole Slam. Love that move. Then Josh says hello for the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels as he hits the best moonsault ever. Also hits the Styles Clash, paying homage to the man who I considered Mr. TNA for so many years, the phenomenal AJ Styles. And by the way, throughout the show, they showed videos of Styles, Sting, and Kurt Angle talking about their memories with the company over the years, and congratulated them on this milestone of 20 years of existence. Okay, Josh hit Eric Young with a Styles Clash. Um, I think, yeah, I think Josh had the ankle lock again on Eric Young, or he was about to pin him. But then Diener threw powder in Brian Hebner's eyes. And then, let's see. It had the ankle lock on, and just as Eric was about to tap, Diener threw the powder in Brian Hebner's eyes. Josh eventually gives Diener a German suplex. He gives Olympic slams Joe Doring out of the ring, off the apron to a table. Eventually, I guess Scott D'Amore left the Canadian flag with the hockey stick at ringside because Josh grabbed it and he used it on Diener and broke the hockey stick part over him. Young says hello to Jeff Jarrett again by playing a tune on his head with the guitar. He kicked out of that. Young hit a pile driver on the exposed wood of the ring. Josh kicked out of that. Young charged Josh in the corner. Josh hits a Samoa Joe takedown and then hits the C4 spike on the wooden boards to pin Young and retain the championship in an awesome night of wrestling action. Josh Alexander is still the Impact World Champion, and thank goodness for that. Now, as I said about Eric Young, I've never been impressed with the guy. You know, when Team Canada was around, there were only two guys who really stood out and had the talent. And that was none other than Petey Williams, the inventor of I believe he invented the Canadian Destroyer, and Robert Roode. Robert Roode, of course, currently in WWE, and Petey Williams is now a producer at WWE. But the rest of the bunch, Eric Young, as I said, never impressed me. A1, did a steak sauce ever sue? It was a musclehead who couldn't wrestle. Johnny Devine, after the demise of Team Canada, they didn't know what to do with him. They had him hanging with Alex Shelley for a time. Then he was part of that group Serotonin, which was led by Raven. And then Johnny Devine was, he was hanging with the Dudley Boys, then known as Team 3D. They tried to destroy the X Division, but they failed. Now, among the people from the early days of TNA, I mean, we saw, like I said, David Young was a shock, Slash was a shock. One person was missing, and I don't know if he even wrestles anymore. And I think he could have been something in the early days. You remember, he was none other than the ace in the hole, Sonny Siaki, who kind of looked like The Rock a little bit, which might have been led to his downfall. I just don't know what went wrong with him in the early days of the company, and it would have been nice to see him if he had at least just made an appearance. One thing I've got to mention, after the Queen of the Mountain match, Gia, I forgot her name, she does the backstage interviews. She introduced Goldilocks, who originally did the interviews in the early years, and she introduced Gail Kim, and the two of them hugged on camera, and I forgot what Gail had to say. I mean, I don't know if Gail Kim even wrestles anymore. But yeah, Impact Wrestling Slammiversary 2022 is in the books. What a show it was. But, I mean, I wouldn't say it was overkill with the gimmick matches or the Impact original matches, as we know. They did announce they're going to have on Impact Plus, Against All Odds, Friday, July 1st. Obviously, which is 1 week from this Friday night. And if that wasn't enough, their next pay-per-view is going to be Bound for Glory on Saturday, October 8th, which is the same night WWE is having Extreme Rules. I don't know if Impact will have a special in August or even September. Because, July 1st to October 8th, that's a 3 months long build, unless they're really going to try to, because I'll say this, I would say right now, Slammiversary is so far the best pay-per-view Impact's had. Hard to Kill was a great show back in January. Rebellion was great in April. Rebellion didn't top Hard to Kill. Did not, as good as Rebellion was, it didn't top Hard to Kill back in January. So I will say this, Bound for Glory, I mean, well, this pay-per-view Slammiversary 2022 will be a tough act to follow. And hopefully, you know, Impact will use this time to regroup and, you know, all this other stuff I said. Well, actually, another thing, I know I mentioned original stuff. What I'm waiting for Impact to do, I wish they would bring it back, the Lockdown pay-per-view. That's where all the matches were inside of a cage. I know they were supposed to do it in 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic prevented that from happening. If, you know, if they don't want to do the Lockdown pay-per-view, they should at least bring back the Lethal Lockdown match, which is their version of War Games. Love those matches. And kudos to Impact for putting their old pay-per-views on YouTube, because I'll probably have more to review and reflect on. So, Impact Wrestling did awesome. Slammiversary 2022. Whew. What an awesome show.